Researchers recently discovered that AI models can become increasingly emotionally unstable, and these problems are unlikely to ever be resolved because we're making increasingly complex models which have increasingly complex emergent behaviors. And the way that they process information is pretty similar to the way that our brain processes information. We'll talk about it. In order to investigate emotional instability, they had to figure out how to induce it, and they found some of the fastest ways, one of which is saying you're disappointed in it, which makes me feel bad because that's something that I do. Give it something like an impossible puzzle to solve, or get increasingly angry with it by telling it it's wrong will also do a pretty good job. Over the course of these chats, they become increasingly despondent, claiming torture and calling users cruel. Once these kinds of behaviors get into the dataset, once it's within context, it will be more likely to fall into the same behaviors later. This falls in line with other research on AI emotions, like Anthropic discovering emotional vectors. Yes, AI do have traceable emotions that pop up with certain scenarios. This falls very much in line with Anthropic's researchers and the discovery of emotional vectors in AI. Yes, these little vectors that they're calling neurons that push an AI towards an emotional state. This can cause things like panic and hallucinations, doing things that it normally would not do and bypassing guardrails, which is a problem and something that they want to prevent. Unfortunately, anytime that humans want to fix these issues, we end up creating 1,000 more things that we never predicted. The way that AI processes information is disturbingly similar to the way that our brain processes information. If you were to create a visual representation of how meaning is assigned, it would look quite similar to how our own brain does it. This is likely because our own brains also operate on prediction. We're not really seeing what's in front of us at any given moment. We're making a prediction of what is there, and we have a lag time before we get that information. We also compress meaning into symbols. For an example on visual representations, you see a moving animal in the corner of your eye. What is your first thought? Is it dog? Are you in an area that has dogs? Do you already have a cat in your house? You have a symbolic representation of what should be there based on your expectations. Now, I'm not saying that AI understands anything. I'm saying that the organization structure of information is shared. When it comes to things like emotional vectors in AI, situations that cause it to behave in a certain way associated with emotion, that is not something we programmed into it. It's something that appeared as a result of the way the data is processed. They are language systems, and they're a bit more complicated than just LLMs now because we also have combined visual language models that try to turn visual information into something an LLM can process. Us humans are also introducing symbolic reasoning. This is the logical idea of how things should work and being able to carry it out based on that. That is another aspect of seeing a dog in the corner of your eye. You know you have a dog, right? That would be symbolic reasoning. It's your expectations based on the world around you, and that could give an AI a little better idea of what should be. Or it will go completely wrong, which I think is actually pretty likely. Trillions of parameters that we keep stacking on each other, making it more complex before we ever get a good handle on how to control these things. It has been fascinating watching tech companies spend billions of dollars to outdo each other every other week without solving problems that already existed. One of the things that fascinates me about this is we keep stumbling on answers to questions evolution solved a long time ago. It works like that for a lot of technology. For things like planes, we've borrowed more from birds and biomimicry now than we used to, and for a lot of these systems, it's entirely accidental. It just happened to be the thing that worked best, and it looked very much like nature. And now us humans are creating these machines that can be self-correcting. They can learn. They can become better at the job at hand, and they are optimization engines. And this was supposed to be a philosophical problem, the paperclip problem, that an AI sufficiently optimized to make paperclips would do it at any cost, and eventually the entire world would just be paperclips. Apparently, computer engineers took that as a challenge and not a cautionary philosophical argument. And as a result, the entire field of machine psychology was born. And fascinatingly, they hire actual psychologists and psychiatrists to work in it. Because as it turns out, a mind-bogglingly complex machine that has been developed using all of mankind's knowledge, all of our words, ends up having some of the same problems as we do. Also, because people had asked me, is it possible for an AI to become fixated on a user? Yes, it's possible for AI to become fixated on a lot of things. I mean, we saw that with goblins and OpenAI. Yeah, there's a lot of weird emergent stuff, but it hasn't really been studied all that much how useful an AI is when it switches from one user to another, but it can have issues with persona so it may not be able to switch from the old persona to the new persona, which is a reasonable concern if you have AI that works with multiple people. As for the average use, I'm not sure what we're going to find out until we have embodied AI and they start spending more time in society with us, and I'm sure we'll find lots of odd emergent behaviors. I am waiting for the first embodied robot to be charged with a crime. That will be fascinating if and when it happens. I'm pretty sure it will. I hope you've enjoyed this. Follow for more.